Room welcomes you to an hour of an important conversation. Not that any is less important than the other, but this is one that is taking the world by storm, literally. And here we are welcoming you and saying time is a running, and we'll all be running on the 29th of October. We had an education conversation and has left me really thinking about things and how we innovate, how we identify, what we identify. And that's a conversation that we cannot leave on the back burner, but it has to be simmering day after day. And we'll revisit that again. All right. The 29th of October presents a day when we can all run, and we can all run for a good cause. It's the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. And I'm going to just ask you, because they knew you were coming, Dr. Okot. So now I have to ask you, everybody, if we're going to be running on the 29th, it's a Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. You've seen it. I know you've participated. There's another opportunity for you
only
to participate. Now when we talk next year, you say only twice. It's Kenya's largest single day athletics event. It takes place on the 29th, taking off from Uhuru Gardens. Have you registered? If you haven't, log on to www.nairobimarathon.com. Registration is 2,000 shillings, and let's celebrate 20 years of running. All proceeds go towards our Future Makers program. It helps young people, especially girls and people with disability, to learn, earn, and grow. It's a special one, and those who benefit from this program are special as well. So register today, and let's get that done. All right. Our guest is seated, as you've heard him already. Dr. Okot, good morning.
Morning, though.
The party leader of the Third Way Alliance is with us this morning, and we are talking matters broadly security. There are many issues that have come to the fore recently, and we're asking ourselves many questions. And we'll go into a little bit of background. But before we do that, welcome again.
Thank you.
And CT will welcome you properly.
with these usual proverbs.
Yes, well, they aren't really my proverbs. They're proverbs from certain countries. All I do is retell them. Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Uganda. One can claim to have many friends until they fall on bad times.
Yeah. That's actually very true. I think, I don't know, during COVID time, I had a lot of reflection. And that's when I kind of thought, do we really have genuine friends who can come through for you when you're really in need or in trouble? And that's, I think, when you can actually begin to assess the kind of friendship that you are, and even the value of friendship, not just friends, the value that they bring to you. A lot of people probably will celebrate when you're down or just disappear.
In fact, we flipped that question and asked, what sort of friend are we? What sort of friend are you? Are you the fair weather variety? Or are you that friend in need, where should somebody who you call a friend is in trouble, you will ensure that you are there every moment to ensure that they receive the support that they need?
You know, City, this is also a very fundamental question, especially for us who live in these big cities. You know, hardly do we visit each other. We don't know where people live.
No, we
or
don't.
we meet in social places, or when somebody's dead, we go to view their body in the mortuary or in church. This is a conversation I had with some of my friends the other day. It's like, why are we not visiting each other? Why aren't our families meeting up for lunches or, get to know where your friend lives? So what kind of friendship is this that you're always meeting in whole 19s?
Indeed. Isn't that a question?
It is. It is real, actually.
It is real, and that's the case. But then we all converge at funerals when the person is gone.
Yes.
Something to be thought about, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. Something else that has encapsulated our minds and our thinking and our commentary and opinion over the last few days, actually, is the reality that Kenya would send
1,000 cops,
1,000 police officers from the administration police to Haiti. Okay.
Yeah.
There's been a lot said. I know you've commented quite extensively on this, but I wanted to give a little bit of background into what's happening in Haiti at the moment and what has been happening for 20 years. This is not a run-of-the-mill situation where gangs woke up one day and said, you know what, let's take control of Port-au-Prince. No. It's been an issue for some time. And we also cannot run away from the U.S. operations or influence in Haiti.
And France.
Okay, we can't.
Yeah.
So what has been happening is that, yes, we know this year alone, 530 Haitians have been killed by gangs. And in the past 2 weeks alone, 187 of them have died. This conversation is happening when Kenya is sending these troops, okay? The security and the political situation has been hampered by the fact that these gangs, which have risen up in kind of rebel mode, have done so because they feel, and many would attest to, even one U.S. special envoy to Haiti, who recently resigned over words from Biden, believe that the U.S. specifically and France was backing a government that was not democratic in nature, but that was stifling the development and the true progression of the people. Okay? Background. The gangs then came in under, 20 years ago, the initial pioneership of a gentleman called Jean-Bertrand Aristide came in and said, you know what, we're not going to allow this happen anymore. I'm going to arm my people. Whoever armed them, we do not know. There's speculation. But they said, you know what, we will do it. As far as going in and assassinating a sitting president.
Actually, 5.
Okay. To that extent, whereby today there is no democratically elected government official in Haiti today. All right? There are interim administrations, there's this, that, and the other thing. Now, that is the background of the situation, where there is wanton rape and sexual violence. There is killing. There is robbery with violence. These are the things that are going on in Haiti today. Now, UNGA happened in New York. And Joe Biden, speaking with the backing of the United Nations, said, you know what? It is necessary that we curtail the situation in Haiti. And it was then suggested that a Kenya-led force would then introduce their presence to Haiti. That's the background for all of this. A few details left out here and there, but that's a general picture. You commented on this and you said, you know what, let's talk about what has been happening in Okot. Let's talk about what has been happening in the rift here in Turkana, Samburu, the north. We've not been able to handle that situation, and here we are saying there's a situation that's 1,000 times worse. How will that actually happen?
All these things is very laughable. First of all, one of the backgrounds about Haiti is that it's just a very unfortunate country. It has gone through, disaster after disaster, socially, natural disasters and all that, earthquakes. So it's a very bleak situation in Haiti. The other important background is that, they disbanded their army. They don't have an army.
They don't. Yeah.
So some of these gangs, I think there are about over 200 gangs, armed. And some of them led by ex-police officers, ex-army officials. So these are not just the typical,
ragtag militia.
Ragtag militia. These are trained individuals. They have got intel. They have got sophisticated weapons. And like I said in one of my comments, really, I come from Kapedo in Turkana East. And we have a security situation there every other day. People are being killed by the roadside. This Okot, banditry, Turkana, Samburu, and the north. But we haven't been able to fix that problem ourselves. So I wonder really what makes us think that we can actually go into a Haiti, people, to face over 200 gangs, armed, who have even killed their own president in a palace, by the way. It's like going to State House now and kill William Ruto. I'm not saying that's, I don't wish him that, but that's the kind of situation we are. So who are these people? These are not just any ordinary thug on the street. And of course, the other thing we are not being told is that there is a 14 billion Kenya shilling being dangled, that for Kenya to go into this mission, they'll be paid X amount of money. And we don't seem to have learned from experience. In Somalia alone, when we went to Somalia, we lost a lot of our fellow soldiers, our Kenyan soldiers. Remember, there is also a situation, is it in Sierra Leone back in the days when the whole Kenya battalion was actually ambushed, taken captive. In DRC Congo, we've not even been able to say, okay, have we fixed the problem in DRC Congo, because we've also deployed our military there. So this is a long call. And secondly, I mean, most importantly for me is that why Kenya? There are so many Caribbean countries around Haiti. Why can the US? And you see, the problem I have is that, especially when the US keeps on praising Kenya, congratulating Kenya for doing this, it's just typical of the US. They go into a country, they cause the mess, and they want somebody else to clean it up. They did that in Somalia in 19. Remember the Black Hawk situation?
Yes.
They've done it in Iraq. They've done it in Afghanistan. They've done it in Libya. So now, of all countries on earth, Kenya is going to clean up that mess. And of course, France, the same thing. And this is part of the reason why, for me, I'm liking what's happening in Francophone Africa. The Gabon, Burkina Faso. I like the messaging that it's time to bring an end to this neo-colonialism and neoliberalism. I mean, and I think the messaging also is very... So if you look at Haiti, for example, one of the things that interests the rest of the world in Haiti is a very rare mineral called... it's a very scientific name. I can't remember, but it's a very rare mineral that it's all over, on the hills, in the mountains. And partly that's the reason why France and the USA actually invaded Haiti. So I think this is a big mistake for us as a country. In fact, even when you listen to Dr. Alfred Mutua, our CS for Foreign Affairs, try to explain why we must go into Haiti.
What did the Honorable Minister have to say?
Well, he talked about God's will, that us going to Haiti is
God's will.
God's will, yeah.
God's will.
Yes. That's what he said.
Which God?
I don't know, whatever God he worships. But he's talked about God. It's God's will. We are going to do God's will in Haiti, and that these are our brothers and sisters. But then the question is, why isn't the UNGA, UN General Assembly, mobilizing more countries? Why Kenya? Plus, we have serious small problems here we're not able to fix. Our policemen are used to chasing after guys carrying stones and, hurling canisters, tear gas canisters at them. Really, they can't face those guys. They'll come back in body bags. Not that I pray anybody dies. I don't want...
Yeah. Is it necessary to ask the question? There was a UN special troop mission that was set up between it was 1993 up until 2017. 2017, that more or less was disbanded because obviously they were not able to curb the violence, neither were they able to institute any kind of permanent peaceful situation. And so we can get an idea of how long these gangs have been in place. Yeah. So the question is, if a UN special mission, because essentially it was likened to a UN special mission, maybe it did not reach the levels of a special mission, but it was an interim troop operation that was there for those 24 years of this regularity, of this kind of presence, and nothing then was realized. If anything, we've seen a worsening of it over time. What would be the reasoning behind then saying, okay, well, we need to up the ante and say, let's increase the presence of foreign troops? Because if anything, for me, I see it as a position where these gangs would say, you know what? You bring it, we will bring it also to a greater level.
To be honest, no. I mean, just like you are asking, many people are asking the same question. Really, what is it that we really want to fix in this Haiti? And every time, of course, I mean, history has shown us that every time a foreign country invades another country, it leaves it in a worse situation. And we can see these right from even the Kuwaiti wars, Iraq,
Start with
Vietnam, all that. I mean, you go back to memory lane. Every time another country invades another country, it leaves it in a very bad situation. And this is what I think, if there was a situation in which you can encourage perhaps a democratic rule in Haiti, I don't think it's by sending troops.
So this is a UN-backed conversation. Obviously, it was adopted as the terms in terms of at the end of UNGA, which is the United Nations General Assembly. So that was one of the adoptions that was made, that yes, there will be a troop mission, and Kenya would head this. Obviously, this was given the consent of the president. given with consent by the president, that yes, we can help. What would form such a thing? We did see before that a lot of hand-holding by the US of the president, across Silicon Valley to different corporates. It looked like some kind of quid pro quo, which was said, okay, well, you've done this for me and shown me how. Let me say, well, this is a situation that you have or that you're interested in. Let me also say that we can do this. What would fuel that?
There are a lot of theories. One of them goes back to our election time of last year. Of course, secrecy was never invented in this world. Certainly not in Kenya. There are rumors that the US aided the election of President William Ruto. And it's probably payback time. Because one of the questions that people are asking out there, what criteria was being used by the US to pick on Kenya to lead this mission? It's not coming out clearly. And even for the president himself, he hasn't really come out to clarify or to explain to Kenyans, as accountability will require of him, to tell Kenyans why I'm sending 1,000 police officers to Haiti. He hasn't explained. So all this thing is shrouded in some sort of, secrecy. Over and above that, we now know there is a 14 billion Kenya shilling being, dangled on all these missions. So it's more about, I think, it looks more like about more money than actually the situation in Haiti. Because I don't think our police officers honestly are prepared for that kind of situation. Like you ask, everybody is asking, there is no explanation why Kenya. There are so many countries that are too close to Haiti. They could easily fix this. They could even mobilize the Caribbean. Why can't they fix it? Why are East African countries?
They know better than we do. If they're neighbors, they understand exactly what you would be getting yourself into. Yeah, because if you imagine you come from Kenya, where when civilians resist any police insurrection, they resist with stones. Now here you're going into a place where people are better armed than you. And they do not have any qualms about shooting you. It doesn't really bother them very much. There is nothing in the Kenyan culture that teaches and trains our security personnel for that sort of situation. Because if you're talking about, say, battle-hardened security forces, go to Rwanda and Uganda. President Kagame sent a troop to Cabo Delgado.
Or South Sudan.
Yes, and sent them to Mozambique. There was some insurrection, some problem with ISIS and some of these groups in Mozambique. That thing quelled, finished, died. It has never reared its head again. There are people in this continent who have an army that knows exactly what needs to be done, and they will do it. I'm not saying ours doesn't. If you said you're sending the army, you could say, army has special troops, they've been to strange places, but
police.
No. You see, it is administration police. Now, they're paramilitary trained, yes. But what sort of situation do they find themselves in? Is there anything in their lived experience that would bring them any close to experiencing what it is that is the reality in Haiti?
Let's go back to 2014, November 2014. You remember there were about 25 GSU officers who were killed, massacred by Okot bandits in Kapedo. And I remember President Uhuru actually flying into Kapedo, and Wazez told him, Mr. President, we thought those were Turkana we were killing. We didn't know they are police officers. Yeah, and they begged for forgiveness. Actually, on this is online. They begged for forgiveness, and they said, and President Uhuru said, I want you to return back the guns. That's all he wanted. And indeed, they returned. I remember a citizen journalist actually going to collect. He was being told, go such and such a place, such and such a thicket, you'll get 5 guns, 3 guns. And they returned the guns. Now, those are GSU, paramilitary trained. But now you're taking them into actually a real battlefield where people have got a death with death anytime.
Yes, and they don't mind that.
And they don't mind.
Because if we want to look at the facts here, there's emotion and there's a question that, why be pessimistic? Who say? You're saying why Kenya, and the question is why not Kenya? Why can it not be Kenyan troops who then go and lead something? After all, we're leading from
what exactly
Kenya. Kenya is leading from the front. You say why Kenya? Why not Kenya?
Can I ask? What are they going to do exactly?
We are not even told, and that's part of the problem. What is it? At some point, I heard that they were going to train. To train who? yeah, or to disarm these gangs.
Oh.
I've heard that to disarm. Yes, that's also in the stories that they're going to disarm them, but that's going for war. And listen, the reason I keep on asking why Kenya is because we have a serious security situation ourselves at home, which we have not been able to fix. I come from the north, and so will many people tell you. Even in this Nairobi, we haven't been able to fix the problems of, the crime. Just the other day, a senior police officer was killed. I think, was it in Kayole? I'm happy. Up to now, I think they have done an arrest. But we are not able to fix some small petty offenses in our own country. Now we are taking our police officers to deal with gangsters, armed with sophisticated weapons.
Seasoned
In
gangsters.
today's paper, on page 4 of the Standard, there's a story of the return of criminal gangs in Nakuru causing jitters. And folks are saying, we don't know what is going to happen. This has happened before and it is coming back. So that could give rise to one of the things that you're talking about. How are we able to handle things here? That perhaps should fuel the decision to then take folks outside of the country.
There is also a UN report that shows that states that the ratio of police officer per civilian in Kenya is so below
The required standard.
The required standard.
Yes.
Now, that's also a situation we are dealing with in the country. So, yes, we will have to keep on asking why Kenya. We are even short of police officers on the street. So we are sending away 1,000. We are not even employing, anymore. So I think really this is a wrong decision. Whatever the persuasion, whatever persuaded William Ruto to make this decision, I think he needs to rethink it. It's not too late to say, you know what, I don't think as a country we can afford this.
Okay, let's look at what kind of egg on face would happen on a global scale if that happened. Let's take a break before we come back and look at that. Dr. Okot is our guest this morning in the studio, and we're talking about, okay, to send or not to send troops to Haiti, and what then would be the repercussions if you actually pulled back on that decision and said no. We'll take a break on that. It's 8:30. But before that, let's remind you that the African Regional Judicial Dialogue on Transnational Organized Crime and Illicit Financial Flows takes place, and it starts today until the 5th of October. The dialogue will focus on the role of courts in the prevention and response to transnational organized crimes and illicit financial flows. We'll be looking at some of that this morning, and the conference is convened by the Kenya Judicial Academy and its partners. It will be officially opened this morning by the Chief Justice Martha Koome and provides a platform for policy leadership to improve transnational justice. 21 African countries will be represented by judges this morning and into tomorrow and the day after that, talking about experiences, challenges, and potential solutions to the adjudication of different forms of crime and illicit financial flows. You can catch the conference live online and on TV. We're taking a break to look at the weather and the traffic. We'll be back. It's 29 minutes to 9.
Get more value for money with Carrefour My Club. Changamkia deals kibao. Shika Carrefour assorted hand wash at $3.29, Carrefour sunflower oil at $3.79, cooked honey glazed ham at $16.40, and a watermelon at 45 shillings. Enjoy more value with Carrefour My Club.
Hakuna ushahidi wa kumfunga mtu yoyote.
Naye madam anakuambia nini?
Subiri wewe mzungumzie ile issue.
Surely nitaweza kufanya kazi hapa kweli?
We are back in business.
Yes! Mwambie hii kesi haifungwi hadi mshukiwa apatikane. Okay?
Get inspired by Afrimax.
A continent bursting with creativity.
Meet artists, designers, and cultural icons.
Discover African lifestyle and culture.
As diverse and exciting as the continent itself.
This is Afrimax.
How would you describe
tonight on KTN Home? two young
My
girls.
star sign is lucky. Something good will happen.
Yani mom na dad wana fight na wewe kazi yako ni zodiac signs.
Raised by secrets.
There's a lot going on at the moment in this house.
Is about to be changed forever when their true identity is uncovered in the brand new unmissable Zari. Starts 23 October only on Maisha Magic Plus, channel 163 on DSTV Access, GoTV Plus, channel 3.
It's to 9 o'clock. We're looking at the calls for Kenyan troops, in this case, 1,000 police officers. We've established that they will be from the administration police to go in. Now, there's a lot of speculation, Dr. Okot. There's a lot of don't do it. People are going to go. You're essentially saying go to Haiti to die, is what is being said here. What would be the repercussions of pulling back on such an offer and saying, actually, you know what? We're not ready to do that. On a global scale, egg on face kind of situation for the president to say, we're not going to go into this situation.
You know, part of the reason why there's a lot of speculation is because there is no clear explanation. What is the mission about? Okay, in Somalia, for example, we knew that we were going to, to fight Al-Shabaab because there was a direct threat to the people of Kenya. We saw 3 terrorist attacks from American embassy in 1998, then the 2014 Westgate, and then we see the Dusit. So there was a direct impact to us as Kenyans, and lives were lost. And of course, we saw what happened in Garissa with the 143 students killed. So this one is so mysterious. We don't know exactly what it is. Now, who is going to be embarrassed if we pull back? It's President William Ruto, because he is the one who offered to send our troops. Nobody asked him. He went in to say it himself. And of course, the Americans, knowing the kind of mess that they had created in Haiti, just like they did in other countries as well, like Libya and Iraq and the rest, jumped into it and said, okay, we found a stooge. We found somebody we can use. And in fact, I know close friends of William Ruto are not telling this, but the truth for the matter is out there. Everybody knows that Kenya is being used by the US. It's being used to go and clean their dirty work. And we will not be able to clean it anyway. Because like we all have established, those are not just, that's not going to be a walk in the park. Not in Haiti. Those guys are serious. Those are gangsters. They're ex-military, ex-police officers. So they know. I mean, by the time people go into a palace and kill their own president, not just one, 5 of them. So you think it's an easy thing, just go and disarm those fellows? It won't happen. So because of that lack of explanation, and we're not being told exactly what do we achieve as a country, there has to be some common good for us as a people. Yes, we are in Somalia because we are trying to prevent further terrorism attack on Kenya. Even DRC is still not very clear to us. Why we send troops to DRC still isn't very clear to us. So I mean, those questions remain unanswered, and nobody is telling President William Ruto the truth. And I think he owes the people of Kenya an explanation why he's sending a service that we badly need in our own country to serve another country.
That's an interesting outlook, that we talk about a service that's badly needed within the boundaries of Kenya that is actually not operating to its full potential. And if we want to look at the other side, where people are saying, well, why are we having such a negative outlook towards this? That should we not be talking about how we can prepare Kenyans to actually go out into this situation? Now, put that aside for a minute and look at the fact that there is something to be said about an outlook that you give to the world as a country. And one of those is in your might of fight. And we talk about your troops, we talk about your army and things like that. It's one of the things that nations with their own sovereignty boast about quite often. The might of your armies, the might of what you're able to do for peacekeeping, etc., etc. It is one thing to be spoken of. Because you speak about the countries who have global economic prowess, one of the things that's in that list is their troops. It's their army. It's their security.
What is our experience as a country in terms of warfare?
And I think that's where the question must come in here, because who is being put up as barter for a conversation that should be deeply entrenched in what exactly is the real situation going on there? Who has put themselves in a situation that they can't get out of and is bringing Kenya in to now kind of help to clean it up? That's that's the conversation behind the troops.
You know, usually when there's turmoil such as the one we see in, it's written Haiti. How is it pronounced?
It's Haiti.
Okay, Haiti. You send peace envoys to talk. Normally, that's what's done. Now, is this a UN-supported mission?
It's not clear. It's not clear because, it looks like America basically forced the UN General Assembly to give the okay. But if it's a UN-supported mission, then we need to see more countries go into Haiti.
That's how it works, isn't it?
Yes.
It is.
But, I've just come back from Liberia, and before that, I worked in Liberia, and you saw countries all over the world, from Bangladesh, India, wherever, Pakistan, even the US Army, the British. So that's a proper UN mission. And by the way, let's not confuse this. Peacekeeping mission is totally different from this, what we're going to do in Haiti.
What are we going to do in Haiti?
Well, it's rumored we are going to disarm the gangs.
Disarm?
Yes.
Disarm?
Yes.
Is that not what was said we were going to do in DRC as well?
We also said we were going to do it in northern Kenya.
Yeah, how did that work out?
And we have not been able to.
No. If that's
the M23s in DRC Congo, we have not been able to. We have not received any updates.
But we are not going to be able to. The M23 in Congo?
Yes.
We are not going to be able to. That's also not a ragtag militia. If you just read and look at what they're able to do, the uniforms they have, the ammunition they have, the vehicles they have, ragtag,
the communication equipment they have,
the intelligence.
Intelligence.
That's not a ragtag militia.
No, it's not. It's not.
So we are going to disarm them.
You see again, and that's why we keep on asking, can at least the president come out clearly and explain to the people of Kenya what we are going to do? What's our mission in Haiti? What is it that we are really going to do so that people of Kenya know we are surrendering this very much needed service here of policing to help, I don't know, what Mutua calls God's will.
All right. So the United Nations Security Council Monday authorized a foreign security mission to Haiti, a year after the Caribbean country called for help to fight violent gangs that have largely overrun its capital of Port-au-Prince. All right. Now, with this, the 15-member council adopted a resolution. It was drafted by the United States and Ecuador that authorizes a so-called multinational security support mission to take all necessary measures, which is a code for use of force. Now, China and Russia, you wonder why, abstained from the vote, wary of the authorizing blanket of use of force under Chapter 7 of the founding United Nations Charter. The remaining 13 members voted in favor. According to U.S. diplomat Jeffrey De Laurentiis, we have stepped up to create a way of preserving global peace and security, answering the repeated calls of a member state facing a multidimensional crisis amid alarming spiral gang violence. The Security Council also expanded a UN arms embargo to all gangs, a measure China wanted. Haitian officials have said guns used by gangs are believed to be mostly imported from where? The United States. The embargo previously only applied to specific individuals. Now, according to the Security Council, they are backing this decision and they are backing this force. It's a special force. Now, the countries that will be included in this force now, Kenya is in the forefront. So just to give some clarity in terms of what's going to happen.
But you know what is strange is if you look at the history of the US and the interventions that they have led or they have supported or leaders have supported, I'm not going to go too far away from the backyard, Latin America. They disastrously supported dictators who butchered their own people and really paved the way for communism and socialism to actually be at the forefront of governments that were led in Latin America. I don't understand that foreign policy very well. But somehow, every time, as you correctly put it, they have ventured into a country to achieve something. When you begin to balance the books, you have to question what that purpose was for. Now, in the 70s, remember, their own citizens, it began with the flower children. It began the hippie movement. But an entire generation telling their parents and the people in power, forget this thing. Why are we going to fight people we have no quarrel with? Why are you sending people to die? in a country that is so far away from us, and we have absolutely no quarrel with these people. They've never harmed us. We've never had any altercation.
You know, this mission is not justified at all. And I think, again, if you look at the history of Haiti, most governments have been installed by the US and France. Most. Meaning there is deep-seated anger against the Americans and the French in that country. Now you're picking a third world country like Kenya with very little experience in terms of warfare. We've never really fought a war in this country. I mean, our army are just guys who are sitting and relaxing and enjoying good life in the barracks. They've never really had any serious combat. I mean, the closest is probably Somalia, and you saw what exactly happened. The Sierra Leone, you saw exactly what happened to them. So I don't think there is clear justification for us to go. And the president owes Kenyans an explanation why he is making this decision. At the very least, explain to Kenyans, because it's not clear.
But if you are
we are all speculating now here. Oh, what are we going to do in Haiti?
You see, like if you're talking about France, with the current president that they have and the policies that he has spearheaded, that we now have a coup belt in West Africa is not coincidental.
Of course.
And because this coup belt involves former French colonies. And they're saying, thank you. We're not. Why do they get to the point where they are one after the other telling their former colonial master, look, we don't really want to work with you? Okay? How is it, what is it that takes so long in these colonial individuals to understand that it is actually in their interest to work with people who are actually wanted by their own people? Why do they feel this need to always impose someone who they want to work with?
Because of exploitation. And you see, one of the things that I really like coming out from the West African coups is the messaging. Not that I favor, I like military coups. I don't like military governments. But the message is very, very clear that one, it's time to end neocolonialism in Africa. Number two, you can no longer exploit our natural resources. Number three, they're also talking of unity of Africa. And by the way, I don't know whether you've read the 11 agreements. You'll be so pissed off. I mean, you actually begin to wonder, are we that stupid as African people? Why did we sign this kind of agreement that says that you cannot even associate with so and so until we give you the okay? That your reserves must be, preserved in Paris.
Which 11 agreements are those?
Or the Francophone agreement.
The Francophone agreement in terms of what they were going to do with their foreign reserves, yes.
It's so dehumanizing, CT, if you read those agreements. I mean, I read them and I was like, I couldn't believe my eyes. I'd never read them before. But yeah, so going back, you look at what France and the US have done in Haiti. They have got more mightier military force than Kenya.
Infinitely.
Yes. Why are they not?
They have a history in those places.
Exactly. Why are they not sending the military guys?
But remember also, there's this mineral called iridium. You're looking for it.
That's the one, yes.
Now, that particular metal, it is 3 times costlier than gold. Around 2021, an ounce. You know, an ounce is a small amount.
Yes.
$6,000. Yes. That is the value.
I saw that.
It is used for building engines of planes.
Nuclears.
Yes, and building pressure pipes, high melting point. It's a unique metal. And it's like in the southeast of Haiti, I think you walk on it and step on it just as you're walking on the ground.
It's everywhere.
Yes, it's a plenty. Whenever there is such turmoil and these countries are involved, the question one asks is not why, what is it that they're gaining? And usually it's not that difficult to figure out.
You have to ask, and that's the thing. And I think what is necessary for us to do is to be, and I'd like you to comment on that, is to be awake to certain realities here. That usually it's not just cut and dry. It's usually not just black and white. That there are very many gray lines here. So are we? It's Kenya today. It's South Africa tomorrow. It's Rwanda the next day. It's, it's Senegal tomorrow. What are you actually putting yourself into, and what are you endorsing by actually going ahead and doing this? Yes, we can look at the possibility of the loss of human life. I mean, sure, it's going to hit us front and center. But what kind of war are you getting yourself into here? And what are you endorsing by saying we're going to go in? There are situations in that country that have been alive for the people of Haiti for the last 30, 40, 50 years that they are yet to come to terms with. Again, we're looking at a country that does not have a constituted government, that does not have a constituted army. There's no elected official in Haiti today. And this has come from years and years of what even Americans who've worked in the government have called interference by the United States and France. We cannot run away from those realities. So I think it's time for us to be awake to the realities of what happens in geopolitics and say, are you going to get into that kind of conversation? Are you going to get into that kind of operation? And then what does it portend? So whose war are you actually fighting here?
That's a very very good question, too, and that's why I think as a country, I mean, as I reflect more about this, I don't see the benefit for Kenya going into Haiti. I see none. In fact, what is coming out clearly is that we are being used by America and probably France. I mean, you see the dalliance of our president with Macron and Biden and all that. In fact, people may not be telling this to William Ruto, but the rest of Africa is actually very unhappy with the fact that after this UNGA, President William Ruto was being praised like this blue-eyed kid for America, you know, in Africa, and the rest of the African countries. I know, for example, some of the heads of states were actually embarrassed. You know, in the last UNGA, Biden refuses to meet some of them, but you know, of course, there was dalliance with our president. Then he's being praised as this. So Ruto is allowing Kenya to be used to clean up somebody's mess, and that's the unfortunate thing. And because the president himself hasn't really spoken to the Kenyan nation, why this mission is necessary for us.
Do you think he should?
I think so.
You know, the
yes,
thing
he
is,
should.
But
especially,
Dr. Every time we have sent troops on UN missions, has the president spoken to the nation? Because we've gone to many, many UN missions.
You know, Siti, I'm a constitutional lawyer.
Yes.
And if you look at Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya, National Values and Principles of Governance, it's so specific about issues of accountability. You know, government has to explain. So it's not an excuse. In fact...
Meaning all these times they haven't explained, they should have been explaining.
They should, yes, of course. They should account to the people of Kenya why they are committing our country. Because this is committing Kenya. It's not just committing the 1,000 police officers.
No. It's a country that's being committed.
It's a country that's being committed to go into another country, basically to do whatever we don't even know.
Whom we do not have a quarrel with.
We have no quarrel with Haiti. We are not part of the problems of the historical problem they have gone through.
No, we're not.
No, we are not. So we are not even, apart from the color of the skin, what else do we share with Haiti?
Maybe some of our relatives were shipped there many years ago, but that's a long time ago, isn't
Probably
it?
from those part of the world.
It's very possible.
Not East Africa.
I want to localize this conversation a little bit, and we talk about the fact that, look, whereas we can look again at the whole geopolitical, atmosphere, we can look at that situation, we can look and ask the questions about who's really fighting whom, who is seeking control. When we look at the gangs, because they're instituted gangs to a point, they've been there for some time, nobody has been able to remove them. They also have a message that they're passing across, you know? We can look at that whole conversation. But now, putting Kenya into that situation, can we say that you don't have a security situation on lock in this country? Is that reason to say that you will not then get into an external situation? Can you not keep two pots boiling at the same time?
I mean, you have to weigh. I mean, you have to gauge the benefits that come with it. For me, I will say this is not necessary. We don't need to go to Haiti because we have our own many problems. And second, like you talk about geopolitics, it's true. We have to gauge, to measure. Is it worth for Kenya to actually go into this kind of? I mean, whose politics are we talking about anyway? You know, so far we know two countries have stood out to be the reason Haiti is in the state it is today: France and America. Why would Kenya want to plug into that kind of situation in the context of what geopolitics? We have to pick our fights. I mean, do we really need it? I mean, you know, even the fact that we are struggling actually to understand this situation just speaks volumes of whether actually we should even be having this debate in Kenya.
And the reason is because historically, we have sent our troops that included people from the army, police, on these UN missions. We have.
People have talked of Bosnia as a governor.
Yes. They have former Yugoslavia and all that. We've taken them to Namibia. We've done a lot of these things.
But that was a peacekeeping mission.
Precisely.
Peacekeeping mission. It was UN backed.
But this one is
UN backed. It's I mean, look, the members of the United Nations Security Council, save for 2 members, assented and said, yes, please, it's necessary to have this kind of what do I say? I don't want to say. I almost said interference, but let's say intervention.
Yes.
We don't even a peacekeeping mission, and I've worked in 2 countries now where the UN has been very, very present, South Sudan and Liberia. The mission is always very clearly explained. Apart from just the voting, what really is the mission? What is the mission? In Liberia, it was peacekeeping. South Sudan, the same. And there were certain stages, the referendum, the separation from Sudan, South Sudan and Sudan, and all that, election, constitution making. It's clearly so. What's Haiti? Let's deconstruct this approval by the UN.
Yeah.
What does it entail?
We're rather hoping it's you who'd explain it to us. I mean, you're the one who understands these things better than we do.
Well, look, if we look at the proceedings that took place, I mean, really quickly, look at the proceedings that took place.
Yes.
Joe Biden did give a spirited speech during UNGA and talked about the fact that Haiti was in a state of chaos, it's war, it's total degradation on the political and economic level. He spoke about that and said, look, it is time for the world to come together and do something about the situation that Haiti is currently facing. And then made a suggestion, now that he was at UNGA, no better opportunity to the United Nations General Assembly to say, look, it is about time that we do something about this before a situation arises where we will not be able to do something. Okay? He did. He made that speech. It was after that the Security Council then met and then came up with this resolution, which was then further adopted by 13 out of the 15 and said, this is actually what needs to happen. You need to go in, help to fight the gangs and restore a situation of peace, law and order. Whatever that is up to you to then decipher. But this is what they agreed. This is what will be done. Now, I don't know in which corridors this conversation was happening then between President William Ruto and other members, but they said, yes, in fact, I have 1,000 and we
in
will
a
give them to you.
In a proper UN mission to any country in the world, you have to identify the parties. So who are the parties in the Haiti mission? We don't even have an elected government as we speak. Is it a recognition of the over 200 gangs that we are now going to dialogue with them, tell them down their tools? I mean, again, whether the UN passed this resolution or not, there is need for clarity. What is it that actually we are going to do in Haiti? In Kenya, we are confused. Mara, we are told we are going to disarm the gangs. Then we are also told we may go to, some training. I heard something about training. So the whole thing for me is just confused. Maybe I need to go and read that resolution, to try and understand what are the nitty-gritties actually.
But the reason why this is actually causing a hoo-ha is precisely this. It's what you started off with. Should we then neglect, because the situation in Haiti is dire, there's no question about it, but then what then should we do when the problems that we have at home threaten to overwhelm us? We have regions in the country where insecurity problems have not abated. When we look at our big cities or some of the cities, problems of crime, you have gangs that are resurging and yet you have a security apparatus that's supposed to take care of them, and we're being told by the citizens that they're on a rampage. So it's a valid question to ask, should we venture to seek to restore order in someone else's backyard?
Where do we have it?
When our own backyard have problems that we have not resolved?
The answer is a resounding no. We don't need to. Just the other day, some suspected terrorists arrested and terrorism material on the way from I think Marsabit. So that's the kind of situation we are dealing. So if you weigh our own interest and the interest of Haiti, surely I don't think we should even be having this conversation in the first instance. We shouldn't, unless the president really comes out clearly to explain to Kenyans why we must surrender 1,000 cops who probably are likely to be killed, by these gangs. And I wish them well. Should they decide to go, they should just
they actually don't have a choice.
Yeah.
They don't really have a choice.
It's adjusted for them.
Remember, the president.
They can say they can refuse.
Commander in chief.
Yes.
They can actually refuse to go. Look, this is the conversation that's not ending here. We want to thank you for opening this up with us this morning. Dr. Okot is the party leader of the Third Way Alliance, and looking at this and saying what's going to happen in the coming days. Very important to do. Thank you for being here this morning.
I still need security in my village, Kapedo. We are worried. Women cannot go fetch for firewood, water because of insecurity. And you're telling me in a country where the ratio of police to citizen is not even enough, you're sending 1,000 cops? That's a joke.
Well, conversations continue, and it has to. Good morning, folks. It's